Everybody, welcome to another episode of Table Talk. Today, our guest is Dr. Timothy Fong, professor of psychiatry at UCLA, and he also runs their gambling addiction and cannabis addiction, right?
That's right.
Program.
That's right.
And did I say the title right? Did I say everything right?
Yeah, it was pretty close. I'm actually a professor of psychiatry. I'm co-director of the UCLA Gambling Studies Program. I'm also part of the steering committee of the UCLA Center for Cannabis and Cannabinoids. And at heart, I'm an addiction psychiatrist that does work in providing treatment and care for men and women with addictive disorders and mental health issues.
That's right. This is kind of perfect for this channel, right? Now, I'm guessing because you work in gambling addiction, I usually offer the guests two options. They could play with their own money or they could play with mine and the winnings go to charity. I'm guessing you'll want to play for charity, but it's up to you.
First of all, thank you, Dan, for having me come out to Las Vegas to spend some time with you.
Of course.
And thank you for that offer. And out of respect for the men and women that I work with who are struggling, of course, from gambling disorder and other addictions, I don't play gambling on video. But today, because we're going to educate the public, we're going to educate ourselves, and I'm going to learn a lot about what you do here. Certainly, we'll take you up on your offer for playing for charity.
All right.
Given what's happened to our state in California, I think supporting the Red Cross in support of the first responders and the victims of the wildfires is a very noble cause for us today.
All right. So he's gonna be playing for charity. Here's $500. Whatever he wins goes to the Red Cross and the wildfires in California. There you go, Doc. That is yours. This is mine. We'd like some chips, please.
Yes, sir.
And so we're going to play Ultimate Texas Hold'em today. Are you familiar with this game at all?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
yes, I am.
Perfect. So you don't need like a lesson on how to play?
No. In fact, how I got started in studying gambling, you can't major in this in college, right? So I grew up in Chicago, big sports fan, learned to play poker and blackjack in high school. And the riverboat casinos started opening up when I was in college. And that became a very, activity, a form of entertainment. And back then, no one taught us how to gamble. There were no internet. There were just these whispers of various books. That's why I started to learn how to play these various games. And one of those games, of course, was poker and Texas Hold'em. And of course, we're older now. Remember 15 years ago, just the national craze around poker.
Oh my God, yeah.
And Moneymaker and the World Series, to the point where they were selling poker sets inside like Hallmark, and became a national pastime. It's changed, right? Don't you think? In the last 10 years or so, but Texas Hold'em still is a very popular and well-known game to me.
Yeah, the poker boom kind of went away a little bit, but it's definitely still popular. I think it was an introduction to a lot of people to gambling. Right. In fact, I did another episode of this podcast before you showed up with Maria Konnikova, the poker player.
Poker player, sure.
So it's funny we're talking about poker, and so yeah, let's play. So what got you into studying gambling addiction?
So I went to medical school at Northwestern University.
Are you not betting trips?
Oh, got bet trips.
And then these two have to match. So either 15 on, there you go.
Yeah, 15, yeah.
All right.
So I got into medical school at Northwestern back in the 90s, and I was very interested in studying addiction. Back then, it was what we call addiction as a brain disease. That was the first time people started to recognize that. I came out to UCLA in 1998, and I met a man, my mentor, a guy named Richard Rosenthal, a psychiatrist, who put the criteria for gambling disorder together, like how you diagnose someone. And he became my mentor to explain how to diagnose and how to treat gambling disorder. And right around 1998, you imagine what was going on in the world back then.
Yep. Massive
Expansion of gambling, massive internet. And I was fascinated at the impact of what gambling would do to the body, brain, and mind. So that's kind of how I got started 25 years ago. Never would have predicted that it would have turned into a career studying gambling or developing treatments for gambling disorder. And certainly we would not have predicted how massive gambling has become in America, not only as a pastime, but as kind of a normalized form of entertainment.
Yeah, it's
really
pretty
fascinating stuff.
It's amazing.
Really fascinating
You might have
stuff.
checked that, right?
Yes.
He wants to check it. It's amazing how it used to be so taboo.
Yeah.
You have bottom pair.
Right.
You can bet twice on the flop if you want to, or you could check it.
I'm going to check that.
He's going to check his bottom pair. Those people would bet it, I think. But that's up
We're
to
starting
you.
early. We're starting
oh,
early. Right.
4 diamonds, huh? I don't have a diamond,
don't have
neither
that.
do you. Now, I'm guessing, do you want to play your 5 now for an extra $15? Because now you have to fold or play it. You do have bottom pair.
We'll play this.
All right,
Play
so
this.
15 at the bottom. There you go. Are you surprised by how prevalent gambling's become and how accepted? Well, yep.
Yep. It happens.
Yeah.
So, no, because you look at what's happened in our country. We have massive expansion of the internet. That's been the biggest driver of access to gambling. We've had popular culture celebrating gambling. Go back to movies like Ocean's 11, books, like the MIT card counting.
Yep.
We've had Vegas expanding beyond our wildest dreams. And very simply, you just have games that still appeal to like human nature. People oftentimes struck when they're like, when they say, isn't gambling addiction about simply making money? And I'll say, it's not. And gambling isn't always about whether you win or lose. It's about the experience.
Yeah.
It's about who you meet. It's about entertainment. And so it's not just simply, am I going to make $100 today or not? It's what do I get for that money that I spent? So absolutely, it's not a surprise to me at all.
And is gambling pair of 5s?
Pair of 5, there you go.
So we're going 40 with my pair of 5s. That's 4 times my bet.
Right. Don't have much here.
Now, so you're checking that.
Check that.
Is gambling then, it's still dopamine-seeking behavior, right?
That's a nice way of phrasing it.
You check that.
Check that.
Do you want a drink from the cocktail?
Yeah, let me get a water. A water would be terrific.
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course,
yes,
of
of
course. Do you
course.
want anything else?
No, water's good right now.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You got to stay hydrated at the table.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a good medical tip.
Absolutely. Oh, I made a set. Look at me. What would you like to do with your Jack High?
With Jack High, not much.
Are you going to fold it?
I'm going to fold that.
Okay. So yeah, is it dopamine-seeking behavior? Is that?
Yeah, that's one way we frame it. The way we think about it from a neuro perspective. In fact, what do you have going on there?
He's got a
He's
straight.
got, yeah.
My set is ruined.
Ruined.
Yeah.
One of the things I was thinking after you invited me here would be really cool to do, and I think we'll do this the next time, is to look at what happens to the body and the brain while you're gambling.
Yeah.
Think about what we learned through neuroscience about what happens to, let me get some change here. Back in the 90s, we learned a lot of what happens to the body when you take alcohol, cocaine, cannabis, all the parts of the brain, dopamine, as you mentioned that. Right around the mid to late 90s, people were starting to research that in gambling as well. So they would take folks inside casinos like this, and they would take their blood, they would...
The dollar goes on top. And
they would do various things to see what's actually happening in their body. And we soon discovered that when you're gambling, even when you're driving to the casino, the anticipation of the gambling,
Right.
you're experiencing the exact same kind of experiences you get when you're drinking alcohol, or when you're smoking marijuana, or when you're taking prescription opiates and whatnot.
Right.
So it's exact same parts of the brain that are lighting up. Dopamine is the main one that gets us interested, motivated, attention,
That's right.
pleasure, reward. But there's a lot of other neurochemicals going on there. So,
Are you checking that or betting?
I'm going to play that.
You could triple it or quadruple it before the flop. So $30 or $40.
30 or 40.
Check.
I'm just going to check.
You're going to check it.
I'm going
then?
to check it.
Okay. 30 wouldn't have been a
30
bad
wouldn't
idea.
have been. I keep forgetting. This is for charity.
This is for charity, so it's up
charity,
to you.
Yeah. All right, we'll do it for charity.
He's doing it. He's doing 30 for charity.
Okay.
All right. But yeah, so it's interesting in that. All right, you're open-ended.
Okay.
I hope I pair my 8. That way you'll make your straight.
There you go.
Give me an 8. Oh. And I have 8 high, so that's
8
out of here. So yeah, it's interesting, right? Because dopamine is an anticipatory reward.
Right.
So it makes sense that you get it when you're driving to the casino because you're anticipating that you're going to be gambling.
Right. Exactly. So, but it's really complicated. But I think for years, people would say, "Oh, you can't be quote addicted to a behavior." They would say you have to have a substance, alcohol, tobacco, cannabis, to change your brain functioning. But that's really where, as we're doing this right now, as people who come here, they're experiencing changes in their brain and in their body. And that's in part what draws people in.
Yeah.
But it's also, I think, one of the critical parts that we realize is that any behavior impacts how we think, how we feel, and how we act. And
Right.
gambling is just one of those.
And it doesn't have to be, what's the word I'm looking? Oh, you got ace king.
Yeah.
There you go.
How high can I go on this?
Quadruple, $40.
40 is the max.
Yeah. So I'm guessing it's the difference between an exogenous chemical reaction and an endogenous one, right?
Right.
So when you're playing a video game or gambling, it's an endogenous process that's giving you that chemical reaction.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
Whereas with marijuana or any other drug, it's an exogenous product that's giving you that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. What's different is inside the body, we experience all these wonderful things, highs and lows. And many of my gamblers patients tell me that, it's the one place in the world where they feel normal.
Yeah.
Is inside a casino or while they're gambling. I think for a lot of folks who don't understand this activity, they think, well, why would you want to go there? Why would you want to spend your time and your money on a game that you're going to lose, And that's why gambling disorder, like all other addictions, is a biological, psychological condition. There are lots of things that kind of create that and go into that.
Right. Don't forget your trips bet.
I'm going to get that, yeah.
That's your best money up there, so you want that in case you hit something good. But how much?
Have you hit a royal flush before?
Not even close.
Not even close.
Not even close.
Yeah.
I don't think I've even gotten a straight flush on this game.
So how popular is this particular table game nowadays? Because it's been around 20 years, I remember. I remember Caribbean Stud when it first came out.
Yeah, that's gone.
That's
now.
gone. You can't find a table like that at all.
No, we're both checking. So this and Pai Gow are the two most popular games on the floor. Like by far.
Yeah.
Like as you can see, they've got 4 of these tables right next to each other.
Right.
And you're checking that,
Yeah, I'm
right?
checking that.
He's
yeah,
checking
yeah.
that. So yeah, it's the most popular game. You got a 4.
Right.
$10 with a 4.
And 10 for
$10? Yeah, there we
Yeah.
go. But we were talking a little bit earlier,
okay.
and you mentioned briefly that there is a treatment for gambling addiction.
Yes.
And so what is that treatment? How do you treat gambling addiction?
So very simply, because it's an addictive disorder,
Yeah.
we use the same principle of addiction treatment we use for other addictions: alcohol, tobacco, smoking, cannabis, cocaine, it doesn't matter. Because it's a biological, psychological, social disorder, the risk factors, that means it's going to be biological, psychological, social treatments. So, what's a biological treatment? We have medications to reduce some of the urges or cravings for gambling. We have medications to treat, let's say you have a depression or ADHD that's driving the gambling behavior. That's what we do. Sleep is a biological treatment. Physical exercise is a biological treatment to restore normal functioning. Healthy nutrition is a biological treatment. So it's amazing how many times patients say to me, so what are you going to recommend? I'm going to recommend you get 8 hours of sleep, exercise 60 minutes a day, and eat good, healthy meals.
Yeah.
They'll say, I learned that in kindergarten. I'm like, but you haven't been doing that because your disorder has really been impacting your life.
Mm-hmm.
Psychological treatments, psychotherapy, and counseling. And there's
CBT, the
CBT,
usual, yeah.
right, various things like that. And people say, well, what actually happens in, treatment? It's like the psychological therapies, we're going to work on increasing motivation for you to have a healthier lifestyle, making better choices, understanding where things went harmful in your gambling behavior, and correcting that. Many times, the first thing I say is, I'm not trying to stop you from gambling. I'm trying to stop and reduce the harm that your gambling created.
For yourself.
For
That's
yourself
right.
and family, yeah.
That's right.
So-
Do you want to bet your queen high?
I'm not going to bet.
You're not betting queen high?
Oh, queen high. You got king. What's again for charity?
Yeah,
for charity.
I would bet queen high on this board. He could have deuce 7.
Well, ace king. Yeah, he's got queen high. Yeah, he's
we're
got
toast.
ace 10.
He has ace 10. But yeah.
That's why I'm the professor.
Right. That's right. You weren't going to bet it. I forced you to.
Peer pressure there, people. I once took a class, and again, in all seriousness, it's a very serious thing that we study. But one of the best defenses, of course, is humor. And I like to joke around like you do for various things. When I first started learning about gambling, I took a class on craps.
Okay.
A community college. It was a full-day seminar. It was a 6-hour class, and I still remember this to the day. And the guy taught all sorts of strategies on betting, about how to control the dice, do all these funny things, and it was just so much fun. But when you actually break down the science, you can't control the axis of the dice,
right?
As much as you want to, and I think that's what is really interesting about gambling, is that people are always thinking. I can go to 40, right?
Yeah, you're gonna go 40 with 460 clubs? No, you don't have to bet it. You can check it.
I can check it.
Triple it or quadruple.
Oh, I see. I'm gonna check it.
You're gonna check it.
It's gonna be.
Oh.
Oh.
You're gonna bet your bottom pair?
Bet my bottom
you can double
pair.
it now on the flop. You have to double it if you're gonna bet it, or you
Right.
can check it.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, 2 pair?
2 pair.
Oh, but the 7 counterfeited you. Let's see what happens. I'm going to go ahead and bet 10 with my queen high. Why not? 4, 5, 6, 7.
4, 5,
Perfect.
6.
We got. He qualifies with those 7s. Perfect.
7.
Yeah.
The
6s.
So the treatment and the psychological treatments.
Yeah.
Again, it's various types of therapies to adjust your thinking, your behavior, and just ultimately improve your quality of life. I'll give you an example. I saw somebody yesterday where we were just working on understanding why they couldn't stop gambling. And it was a young man, sports bettor, and he kept putting out every weekend more than his budget. He kept struggling, and the harmful consequences came. And ultimately, we identified it wasn't about him wanting to make money.
Yeah, put the dollar on the light.
It was about him wanting to prove to himself and his friends that he knew more about sports than anyone else. It was a competition thing. So once I identified that that's what it was about, then he was able to pivot to say, where else can you be competitive but healthier? So we identify pickleball.
Okay.
As a source where he could play and be very active and not incur the harm that came from gambling. So, all right, what am I looking at?
You're checking.
King
Are
9.
You can
King
triple,
9.
quadruple, or check.
Triple, quadruple, or check? What are we doing here? Why not? I'm going to triple it.
Triple with king 9. Here we go.
Here we go.
All right. Oh, spades. Oh, I got a top pair. So that kind of leads to my next question.
King.
How well do we understand the root cause of these things, right? Because the best book I read is a book called Complex PTSD by Pete Walker.
Okay.
And in that book, he talks about taking like an antidepressant or something is akin to taking something for dry eyes when you have allergies.
Right.
And so I'm wondering, how much do we truly understand the core of these problems?
Yeah.
And are we really treating dry eyes because we don't understand?
It's the same thing as back pain, right? Back pain is one of the most debilitating things we have in America. But back pain is a symptom, right?
Yes.
It's a symptom of something causing the pain.
Correct.
Maybe it's a pinched nerve. Maybe it's a tumor in the back.
Right.
So that's a great question. So the symptom isn't, people would say, oh, it's a symptom of gambling too much. Is that the symptom or is that the condition?
Right.
So as of right now, we view it as that's the end game, that's the condition. It's the same brain. So when you have changes in the brain that are related in the parts of the addiction part of the brain,
Yes, sir.
what's different is it's the target of the addiction. Alcohol, tobacco, cannabis, gambling, exercise, work. It's the same reason. It's just the targets are different. So we know that to be pretty accurate. What we don't know is what we look at.
You're doing all right.
Kings and
7.
Seven.
Oh, no,
Oh,
actually,
kings and
kings and
eights.
8s. You still win.
we still win.
Still win.
So
Thank
that's
goodness.
something.
Wow.
Like,
Your 7 doesn't play, but your
that
jackpot
Jack
does.
plays. Yeah, Jack plays.
I love it. But yes, please continue.
Yeah, no, so we don't. It's not like we know that there's questions, are people born this way or are they made this way? And
Right.
and as of our research field knows right now, it's a combination. And so we know some folks have genetic differences.
Predispositions,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're born this way.
Yep.
They experience casinos and gambling in very different ways than
Yep.
others who don't have it. And then there are others, that just over time, they just really develop unfortunate habits. So in gambling field, we actually have something called the pathways model where we really believe it's 3 different ways people develop it. 1, you are absolutely genetically predisposed to this. And when exposed to it too early, too often, you develop the addiction. 2 are folks that simply are just overexposed. There's too much gambling around them.
Mm-hmm.
And they never really learn how to ace high.
You're supposed to triple or quadruple with it.
Well, anytime you get ace high, right? You
Yes,
got
sir.
to do
you're
that.
playing. You have to imagine you're playing against a fish that never folds,
Right.
because the dealer never folds, and you're playing just against their hand. $5 more.
Yeah.
There you go. And hopefully we both win. But yes,
Ace
you hit your
high, 4,
and I hit my
ace.
deuce. She's got king 6, and we're
Okay.
perfect. All right.
That'll work. Are you feeling the buzz? Are you
I
feeling
am,
the
I am,
cortisol?
I am.
So how many? You've been a gambler for how many years? Decades.
My whole life.
The whole life.
Yeah, so my
Do you-
parents started taking me to the casino when I was 16.
Do you still get some of that feeling when you're parking, when you're walking into a casino?
Absolutely.
Isn't that fascinating? Right. And so that's all biological response. We can't tell people to stop breathing.
Right.
We can't tell people to just stop, gambling, which is why for years, imagine, in the 80s, let me get some singles here. That's the thing we used to tell people, just say
stop
no.
doing the
Just
thing
say
that.
no.
Yeah.
And if you could, you would.
Yeah. Exactly.
But that's why it's not an issue of morality. It's not an issue of willpower. It's not an issue of math. It's an issue of, frankly, biology and science. So anyway, pathway 1, genetics. Pathway 2, you're overexposed, too much stuff around you. Imagine the phone and sports betting, and,
Yep.
and you constantly are struggling. And then pathway 3 is that it's combo of you just haven't learned to adapt. You say, I'm going to do this no matter what. And you're not really that good at math either, that sort of thing. So
Check.
I'll check that. So lots of different possibilities, but your original question, we don't have a root cause.
Right.
This person developed it because his mom ate chocolate when they were pregnant, right?
Right.
But we do have various things. What are we
I
looking
imagine you fold.
at? Yeah.
Yeah. But we have ways of measuring, or we have ways of understanding why people become addicted.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, when you think about how many people develop gambling disorder, take a guess for you in the general population. What do you think the prevalence rate of gambling disorder is in the general population?
General population gambling disorder, I would put it at under 5%.
Yeah. So it's about 1 to 2%.
Yep.
And people say, oh, that's not that many. But that's also the same prevalence as, say, other serious mental illnesses like bipolar or schizophrenia. Then in certain parts of the world, in regions where you look, that number is going to be much higher. So years ago, we did a study in a casino like this. Mm-hmm. And we just surveyed random people just walking around and asked them about their gambling behaviors. And we found about 35% of them met criteria for gambling disorder. Makes sense.
Yeah.
That's where you're going to be.
Yeah.
Rob Banks.
You've come
that's
to the
where money's
dragon's
at.
den looking for a dragon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, do you think there's a straight under there?
Well, I think you check and you see if there is. Oh, you got your
Oh,
4.
we'll pair.
You can double or you can check.
I'll check that. We got to make this last a little bit.
Right?
Right, yeah.
I fold. You can bet 1 time. I assume you will because you have a 4. So I will say for myself, oh, you lost to a 10.
Yeah.
I will say for myself, over the years of doing a lot of therapy and self-help
Let me get some red.
I found that most of my behavior is just dopamine seeking. So it's even though I've had problems with gambling, I've had problems with food, I've had problems with a lot of different substances and actions over the years, the root cause has always been just seeking dopamine.
Right. And seeking it in a way that it's, quote, never enough. Because I learned very early on in my career as an addiction psychiatrist, people use substances or they gamble either to feel high or to feel normal.
Feel normal, yeah,
right?
To escape.
Escape,
yeah.
And that, and it's really that second part, that biological. That's where it just keeps going and going, and the dopamine seeking and wanting, more, and it's just never enough.
It's never enough. You want to check that probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's been that's been the problem. Is that you got a gutter with a queen high.
Yeah.
You want to double or check?
I'll check that. All right. We did a 7 in there.
Oh, you got your 6. Now you bet it once.
Yeah, and so as your brain changes, right?
Yeah.
As you get older, some of that stays exactly the same as it was. Some of it does change and adapt. The brain's really, really plastic, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, you've gone through a lot of ups and downs, right? And you found certain things. The same drive that you have to seek out, activities that are dopamine centered also allowed you to be a successful YouTuber.
Mm-hmm.
It's risk taking. It's,
right.
It's thinking, in the moment, it's taking chances. And so a lot of folks with gambling disorder, they have a personality trait where they are impulsive.
Yep.
Act without thinking. But at the same time, that personality trait can be really useful. If you're getting mugged in a parking lot, you're not going to be like, should I defend myself? No. So there's a lot of really positive qualities about just gambling I think we oftentimes dismiss. But the goal is always to reduce harm from gambling. That's simply what we've been trying to do the whole time. So again, about 1% of the population gambling disorder, and another maybe 2 to 4% at risk, where it's starting to create damage.
$10
to their lives, but it's not yet restricting or limiting them in serious ways. But as you know, gambling disorder is so easy to hide.
Yep.
You can't smell it.
Yep.
You can't taste it.
Yep.
So when people say to me, "What does someone with a gambling disorder look like?" I'll say, "Well, they look like all of us.
They look like you. Yeah.
They look like me.
Yeah.
And it's the harm, right?
Yeah.
And in your story, the gambling disorder, did a lot of positive, a lot of negatives, I'm sure. Like, what do you still struggle with now, if I may ask? What still gives you difficulties around gambling nowadays?
So I still have days where I gamble more than I want.
Sure.
It helps. So I always joke when people ask. I always joke that I figured out how to turn a gambling addiction into a career.
Right.
And for the most part, that's very true. The only thing I'll say is that I've been very fortunate that as my income has increased, my need to bet more has not kept up with it.
Okay.
So I found some sort of balance where I still gamble and I get to gamble every day, but I know people that followed the same trajectory as you want to check that as me, but they kept increasing their bets with their revenue.
Yeah.
Right? So they are still in that in that boat where they're
Right.
constantly looking for more money.
Right.
And for whatever reason, I never went that far. You probably want to toss
Yeah,
that.
I'm gonna toss that.
Like mine never could. Like I got to about the $10 bet range,
Yeah.
and that seems to keep me satisfied.
Yeah.
Even though I could afford to bet more now.
Right. Right.
So I've been very fortunate. I don't know what. The
So
cause
something's
of that
happened
is.
in your brain. Something's happened in your mind to kind of contain the symptoms. One of the symptoms you just described is tolerance, right? Where you bet more and more to
Yep.
get the same sense of action and thrill, or when you bet the same smaller amount, it doesn't give you any dopamine or give you any kind of attention or whatnot. So that's really interesting,
Yeah.
and that's where we see a lot of folks who develop problems and harm related to gambling, and then are either to repair it themselves, they figure it out, or something happens in their lives, they move away, and that's true for all addictions. But for many folks, still, it requires professional help, and that's definitely one of the challenges, where a lot of folks struggle and have harm from gambling, but then they don't actually go seek help. So, what do we have?
So they don't ever. You want to check that,
check
yeah.
that.
So they don't ever find that, like, I found out compromise almost in
Yeah.
a way, right?
Yeah.
And so what is the difference then for those of us that find that compromise and those of us that don't? You probably want to fold 10 high on
Yeah,
that board,
fold
but that's up
that.
to you.
She's got no. I'm gonna fold that. So that's a great question.
Yeah.
For years we would say you need to hit
Rock bottom?
right?
Yeah, which is
which is a terrible term, right?
You got nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So now we're saying instead, no, we need to find when you can get access to professional care. So people often say, well, who needs professional care? You don't have to have significant damage to get help from psychotherapy and counseling. And the pandemic's really kind of taught us that, where, let me get some red, where anyone can go in right now to learn more about just themselves.
Right.
Like, am I a dopamine person? How do I manage my anxiety? What do I want to get out of gambling? What do I want to get out of drinking? That sort of thing. So more and more people, and particularly younger people, I think, are accessing care like that at an earlier stage. So that's good. But I think my biggest concern right now is the younger generation that's really chasing money.
Yeah.
Very
And
intensely.
overexposed to gambling.
Overexposed to gambling at a very young age, not learning financial health,
Right.
financial literacy.
Right.
That craps class. Ooh.
9-10 of hearts. What are we going to do with
Yeah,
that?
I got to go with that,
Are
right?
you going to triple or quadruple it?
I'm going to stay with the triple.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
seems like a decent idea.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. You need a queen.
Need a queen.
You have a straight blush.
We will take
You have a
that.
straight blush.
We will take that.
Oh my God.
Where? Yeah.
You got a straight
Rare to
blush.
see that, right?
7, 8.
Wow.
7, 8, 9, 10 jack.
Wow, you get
7, 8, 9,
400
10
bucks up
jack.
top.
400.
400 up top and 50 to 1 and
50 to
500 on the
1
side. Oh my
I ought
God.
to support the Red Cross Wildfire
Yes,
Relief
sir.
Fund.
Yes, sir.
So,
That's how you do it.
yeah.
Well done.
Not rigged. Not rigged.
Not rigged.
Not rigged.
That's amazing.
It's fun.
That's amazing.
And that's the best part of gambling, when it's fun, when there's people around, you get a surge of energy,
400.
right? That's what draws people in. And if we can capture that, amazing. But again, on the flip side, that's we see some folks get over involved. But
By the way, if you got that on the flop, it would have been $7,000. You would have gotten 10%.
oh right, the 10% of the progressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you had flopped it, but you didn't.
Yeah.
That would have been nice.
That would have been something.
Dude, look at this.
Yeah, there you go.
The Red Cross is coming
The
up.
Red Cross. God's coming up.
Look at that. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
What's the biggest win you filmed on camera here?
On slots, about 18,000.
18,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tables, not nearly as much. It's
Sure.
harder to win. Like that's
Yeah.
that's
yeah.
a good win for
That's
the
a good win.
tables.
That is something.
You know what? Can I get some red, please? That was amazing, man. Good job.
That's the thing, right?
And that's why we gamble, right? Because
That's
that rush.
Well, And that's what people don't quite grasp sometimes. They're
Yeah.
like, why would you want to do that to
Right.
just lose?
That's
And
true.
you don't
Thank you.
always lose and you don't always win and things like that. But
Right.
I think, again, one of the things that's fascinating, like for me, is just for those young people, again, the internet,
Yeah.
sports betting online, gambling online, social casinos online.
Yeah. Plus, every influencer they watch is sponsored and gets like.
So it's a very different gambling world than what Gen X like you and I grew up
Absolutely.
with. Absolutely. So, so that's a concern, and we definitely know that younger people whose brains aren't fully developed
Yeah.
will have a harder time dealing with wins and dealing with losses. That's why, and people ask you, let me ask you this: why is gambling regulated? Why does it have to be 21 and over?
Because our brains aren't fully formed yet.
It's like
Not till
alcohol.
25, really.
Yeah, it's like alcohol. It's an adult
Yeah.
activity.
Yeah.
And we've changed it now to, what do we get?
You want to throw a 10 on
Yeah,
the
throw a
bottom.
10 on that. We've changed it into a normalized, if you're a kid, it's okay for you to do it.
Right.
And we don't do that with alcohol, tobacco, and cannabis to that same degree. We do it for gambling. So that's definitely a concern of ours, is that we've turned into a overemphasis on not just gambling, but making spectacular money fast.
Right.
Crypto, meme coins,
Yep.
YouTubers,
Yeah.
right, and really not taking away the emphasis of what we really want, which is human connection, which is a sense of purpose. One of the things, like if you were to hang out with me in treatment, I focus a lot on recovery. Is really 4 things I want to focus on:
Okay.
improving your home,
Yeah.
improving your mental health and your physical health, giving you a sense of purpose, and strengthening your community. Home, health, purpose, community. And oftentimes, a lot of people come in, they're like, "Oh, I just want to stop gambling." I'm
Right.
like, well, you can stop gambling, but what's
You got
really
top pair.
important,
Double.
what's really important is all those 4 domains.
Yeah.
And even in your own journey, this work you do here on social media, this is not a lonely thing.
Right.
It's very connection. There's a lot of, it gives you purpose, it gives you a community, it gives you an audience to kind of reach. So
Absolutely.
those are the domains I think are super important. So for anyone, that's out there, when they don't have those 4 things, that's really when addiction becomes a very obvious choice.
Right.
If you're struggling in those domains, of course you're going to turn to, and now it used to be you had to drive 5 hours to get to Vegas. Now Vegas is in your pocket.
It's in your pocket.
Every state in America.
Right.
Yeah, really, really shocking. Yeah.
Have you seen an uptick in gambling disorder and people gambling addiction?
We have in certain areas with this massive expansion of sports betting.
Right.
We've seen nearly every state have increased in the number of calls to their helplines regarding problem gambling.
Oh,
We've
really?
seen that. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We've also seen other states that have, expanded casinos like this and online gambling options. Have also seen increases in gambling addiction rates in the community measured by survey. I'm from Illinois, and Illinois. Have you ever spent time in Chicago or Illinois?
No, I've driven through it. That's
Maybe
about
it's
it.
something
Yeah.
good. So for years there's no gambling.
Right.
They had a lottery late 80s. Riverboat casinos came in the mid to late 90s.
Yeah.
Now in Illinois, you can bet on sports on your phone.
Yeah.
You can go into like strip malls and play video poker, slot machines. And now there are casinos in the heart of downtown Chicago.
Right.
Because you expand all that, we see more gambling addiction. And unfortunately, the rates in Illinois are now as high as 4%
Wow.
in the entire state. So all that makes sense. Expand gambling, you're going to get more gambling disorder, unfortunately.
Would those people though that have picked up gambling, would they have found another outlet for their? Because again, it's just either dopamine-seeking behavior or they're looking to get past the problem, right?
Yeah. I mean, we see that a lot. Like we call it switching addiction. So sometimes folks will come in, they'll they'll stop gambling and then they pick up a drinking problem.
Right,
or
right.
an eating problem.
Yeah.
But again, that's why I always say to folks, however you're made, let's turn that into good. Let's turn that into healthy production. You're not damaged. You have an addiction. You're just built differently.
Yeah.
And so
You just need to find the right outlet.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you as well. What's the longest stretch of time you spent on a slot machine or at a casino table?
In recent memory or ever?
Lifetime.
Like how long?
Like in one single gambling session.
I think in my youth, probably close to 24 hours.
24 hours.
Yeah.
So, not many people can do that.
Yeah.
Even if you paid them, right?
Right.
And so, it was, let me get some...
Yeah, to the point where I was
bread.
falling asleep at the table. You
Right.
know, yeah.
But
yeah.
you think about how come? What was the reason you couldn't get up?
Oh, back then it was escapism. I was trying to avoid my own life.
Yeah,
you know?
that's
Yeah.
part of the addiction,
Yeah.
just the escape and being stuck in there. And that's a symptom of the disorder. But I think that's what's so fascinating. That same quality, if we rename that, persistence, ability to stick through things to the end, they're suddenly really good quality. So it took me, several years to recognize that, to say, you know what, instead of trying to tell people to stop that, have them take advantage of that for other things. And so that's where, there we go.
Yeah, you want to 4X that, I imagine.
Yeah,
$40.
that's where...
Yeah. Perfect.
And a lot of folks, that just feels better for a lot of folks when they come into treatment and then what do we get? Not much. Ace high.
You got ace high.
Ace
You still might be
high.
good. She's got jack 10, maybe 7, 8, 9 jack. There you go.
You can see the cards. You can see the cards.
Yeah, yeah.
You have a little window.
I've played it long enough where
then you can.
I've got an intuitive sense for the cards.
And that's why gambling is such a funny insight into human nature. Well, like baccarat, how people play the cards, they do them things.
Yep.
It's just all gambler's fallacy. We all want to control something that we can't.
That's right. That's exactly right.
But that's some of that people just enjoy, that whole mystery, right, of all that.
Oh, I love if I'm playing alone, I love squeezing my cards and just getting every ounce of dopamine as I can.
The ritual, right?
Just real
It's all
slow.
about kind of hope and something
That's
tied into
right.
there. So, but anyway, so that's the whole thing now. Is I think unfortunately so many folks experiencing gambling disorder or turn to gambling, and then they end up
How about 3X on that? Maybe?
3X, sure. They end up having.
But again, it's that you got bottom pair.
King.
It's that-
What's the way to bottom pair? Ace
5,
3.
6. No, there's
See
no
what they
6 or 10.
got.
I'm out. You got a 3. I think you'll be
Yeah,
all
I think
right.
we'll be all right.
She's got what? Queen 10.
Queen 10.
Ooh.
Eights and threes.
Yeah. Not too fair.
So much for your advice.
Yeah, right. Gambling's an interesting thing. It can ruin your life, but it can also, I don't know. For me, it's saved my life. So it's tough for me to you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, what do you call yourself when you introduce to people, I'm Dan, I'm a...
YouTuber.
YouTuber.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a gambling professional.
No.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not. I don't massively from gambling.
Yeah. What did you do before you did this?
So in my 20s, I worked in the in the video gaming industry. So I worked on massively multiplayer video games,
Okay.
and then I played online poker
Okay.
for about 4 years until Black Friday, and that went away. You want to triple or quadruple that,
Triple that.
and I will quadruple. And then, I somehow became a YouTuber.
What was that like doing online poker as a job?
It was okay. It wasn't the same dopamine rush as gambling.
Yeah.
As
Did you like
gambling.
work?
Yeah, it was a grind.
And
It was a grind. I wasn't very good at it. No. I got an ace. Trying to take my ace. Yeah, right?
good game, good.
What was I gonna say?
Did you do you did that from home?
I did that
So
from
you were
home.
working from home before there was a work from home.
That's right. That's right. And it paid. Okay, I wasn't very good at it. My like I have severe ADHD, and so for me, like online poker was I got to play 10 tables at once, just real tight in position.
Right.
And like I didn't have to like it just my ADHD got to take over and just you know. Very different than. Ooh, you need an 8, sir.
An 8.
I will bet my middle pair. You can check it if you want.
All right, I'll check it.
8's kind of hard to come.
Oh, I was gonna play that.
I know.
All the way. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah, he's got it all the way. All right, now you got to put 10 down.
That's too funny.
Yeah, I mean, there you go. It's hard for me to talk about gambling in a way that makes sense to anybody else, just because mine ended up in a career, and it ended up, you know, how many gamblers don't ruin their lives, but instead figure out how to turn it into
Right. Oh, there's not that many.
That's what I'm saying. So I feel like I'm a terrible example.
Right.
you know.
But at the same time, there was an opportunity, and you met the right people. You didn't do this by yourself.
I built my channel by myself.
Oh, you built it by yourself?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
For years and years, I did it all alone.
Yeah.
You know, and it was a way for me. Like I just started the channel because I was like, well, I'll make a couple dollars.
Yeah.
It'll, you know, offset the gambling a little bit, and that was the extent of the thinking. But then as it grew and stuff, like, and I threw myself into it, right? So that same kind of skill we were talking about, the persistence and stuff, like
the ability to stick. You know, we call it resilience. Sometimes we call it grit.
Right.
Which is what we all want.
Right. And that was what I took advantage of. You want to
I'm gonna
check triple or quadruple?
I'll check.
Wow. All right. So I threw myself into YouTube. You know, I figured out tagging and keywords and all that stuff that mattered back then, which you don't want to bet that now. You want to wait till the river.
Okay.
Now you want to bet it. So yeah, so I guess there's some of that, right? Like I threw myself into YouTube. I learned as much about it as I could, and that ended up being my lifesaver.
Yeah.
Like literally.
Yeah.
Like
what got you out of the poker world, the online poker world?
Oh, Black Friday.
Oh yeah, when they shut them all down.
They just shut it all down.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, I wasn't very good at poker, so I couldn't transition to live.
Right.
Because I was bored as hell just sitting there playing.
Think about it. I can't imagine a worse job for someone with 80. You're there by yourself, no human connection. You're playing against who knows what, and you're grinding out. An income that's steady but not massive, right? I mean, we're not talking like 10,000 a day or 20 grand a day, and it's a lonely existence.
Yeah.
But no, and this now you have a platform.
Now I have a platform.
Now you have a platform to entertain, educate,
That's right.
and get people. I'm always fascinated. A lot of times when we do these talks on gambling disorder, we'll get a couple hundred people in the audience, or I'll do media bits. We'll get maybe a couple hundred views, but we don't get the audience you get. A single video. So it's not entertainment. Yours is entertainment and it's baked in. So again, thank you for having me there.
No.
To kind of explain
of course.
this stuff.
You're checking that, I assume?
Yeah.
There we go. I finally hit top pair. Let's see if it holds, CJ.
Pair.
You're checking that.
Checking that.
7 high on that board.
Oh,
you got a pair.
There you go.
$10. And we got a pair of 3s. We're perfect.
Yeah, we're good.
And so another thing, I don't know if you're probably aware, but like us gambling influencers, we get so much money thrown at us to promote this or that.
Right.
And I don't take on sponsors.
Yeah.
Like I haven't for years and years and years. Like I'll take on the occasional social casino.
Okay.
But the crypto casinos and stuff, they toss 5 to 6 figures a month at you. to promote that.
To promote their product.
To promote their product.
Yeah.
You want to put your dollar on top and 10 on the...
Sorry.
And I never do, just because I feel a certain sense of responsibility, right? I'm like, people are watching me to be entertained.
Right.
I think I would be doing them a disservice if I was constantly like, hey, go gamble here and make me even more money. You know?
It crosses the line from entertainment to advertisement to, you know, is he being paid off?
Right.
Like, how do you think, what's your secret sauce that's allowed your platform and your channel to grow? What is it about your, I mean, there's a lot of other folks out there.
A lot of
other folks about that.
We both check, I think. I think we're both going to play our hands.
Pair.
All right. Well, we both have a pretty good
I have a little
card
higher.
hand.
No.
And you have a pair of fives.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think mine is that I'm entertaining. I'm fun. Oh boy,
Ooh.
there goes that.
Yeah.
I'm funny.
Yeah.
So people find it amusing to
Yeah.
watch my antics and that sort of thing. And I've been you know I look at this as a gift, like what's happened.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like we said, like how many people get to actually turn an addiction into a lucrative career, right? So
Yeah.
I've been trying to capitalize on it as best I can. Like I've started my own studio. We're making our own slot machines now.
You're making your own slot machine.
Yeah.
VegasLowRoller's slot machine.
It's a standalone game. Doesn't have my face or my name on it.
Okay.
We're like an independent studio making our own games.
Okay.
You know, so I'm trying to capitalize and use this success for good and make interesting games that people will like. You're open-ended.
Oh, open-ended.
I've got bottom pair, so I'm going to go ahead and bet that.
Let's see. Are you feeling it?
I mean, it's up to you.
Yeah, I'm going to go
20.
20?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on. Oh, you missed. You
Almost.
missed.
Almost.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
Well,
well, happens sometimes.
unless he's got deuce fives.
Oh, no, he's right.
Oh, and you beat me too,
Yeah.
sir. CJ.
No.
But I will say I'm not, I still, like I would never tell anybody I'm cured or I'm past, like I still have a lot of dopamine-seeking behavior. You know, I struggle with my weight, I'm impulsive.
Yeah,
So it's not like it went away.
right.
Like I just found a balance that
Yeah,
that
and
worked.
I think that's exactly what we strive for, is that, again, if you try and change yourself into something that literally biology can't do, you're not going to succeed. If you don't accept who you are, and we all are ultimately flawed individuals per se.
Right.
So we do certain things really good. All of us are really good at certain things. All of us could be a little bit better.
Right.
You know, in comparison, you think about things that you're better at now compared to 10 years ago, there's a lot of things you're better at.
Right.
And, you know, that's led to, you know, this kind of success. And I think that's what's really interesting with this field here.
You're checking.
Yeah.
Yeah. 6,
6, 7, 8, 9
doesn't quite work, sir.
4.
I don't think you're playing 6 high.
No. It's too bad.
So
But
if you were in my shoes, would you feel like you still had a problem? Oh, I got it.
well, you know, it's an interesting debate. I mean, for years, remember, people would talk about addiction as either all or none. You have it or you don't. We know that that's wrong.
Right.
There are
Well, like-
periods of where your behaviors are creating more harm than others. I like the term, there's a reoccurrence of addiction rather than a relapse. You're a person with gambling disorder. You're not an addict. You're not defined by, let me get some red and some white. You know, so all that's modern day thinking. And so we embrace these, they're not disabilities per se, they're, again, understanding how to use what you're good at to make a better quality of life and to avoid situations. Right, so you're right. Like if you're under a lot of stress, or if you don't sleep well, or if anything that'll push you into that zone of wanting to escape again, that's dangerous.
Right.
Right? But clearly you've worked on it enough. What was your experience with GA like through the years? Did you ever go to GA?
Never went to GA.
Never went to Gambling Anonymous. And so, for those out there that don't know, I mean, obviously that's the 12-step support group. Gambling Anonymous has been around 65 years, 60 years, that works for some but not all. I think of it as a crucial part of recovery. But
oh, you do?
Yeah, but it doesn't work for everybody.
Right.
But what they offer is support, fellowship, and hope. That's crucial. That's really important. You know, you need that.
You fold.
Oh, I fold.
But my biggest problem with any of the any of the anonymous programs, and I briefly looked into them, was two things. One was the complete abstinence of everything.
Right.
And I don't know how realistic that is for someone with my personality type. You know, and I think for a lot of people, like, because I can have a drink anytime I want and not feel the need to have 2 or 3 more.
Right.
And
for whatever reason, alcohol doesn't change your brain chemistry like the way other behaviors did, or other substances. Again, that's a little bit of still a mystery for us, but that's essentially what. What are we looking at here?
We're gonna triple or quadruple or check that?
We're gonna triple that.
All right, we're tripling the jack now. All right. Can I get a set? That would be nice, at least, or 2 on the flop would be.
8.
Oh, nope. You need a 10, sir.
You need a 10.
Spade 10.
Spade. Oh, I take that.
That's how you do it. Do you think you can bail me out? Have like 2-3?
Yes, sir.
2-3. 2-3.
2-3. 6. 4.
Oh, perfect. I'm okay with this.
You can do it. But yeah, I mean, right. And so for some, but not all, and that's why there's so many different paths to recovery, so many different paths to what we all want, which is a better quality of life. And a lot of folks who come to see me, they're surprised. That's the first thing I say to them. I say, listen, I don't care what you do. I care how it impacts you. I want you to have a better quality of life. And so that's really one of the biggest things, and you know this, you've experienced it, is of all the addictions out there, gambling disorder, I would argue, is the one that generates the most amount of shame.
Yes.
Right? You know, I've had so many patients say to me, my family doesn't understand what I did. What I did was so intolerable. I had a young kid about a year ago, a college student, who stole 80 grand of his grandmother's jewelry and sold it. The shame he had fueled the addiction, but the shame, even coming into recovery, because he said to me, hey, Doc, I don't even deserve to have an appointment with you. I don't deserve to get better. I mean, how do you overcome that? So
I know.
That's where, you know, we've certainly tried to reduce shame.
Yeah.
And it's hard because society really equates money with morality. Right? So when you lose a lot of money, you are a bad person or selfish. And so we really tried to correct that.
You want to bet your king high or fold it?
No, I'm going to fold that. I feel like he's got something under there.
So you think the stigma of gambling still drives people to...
absolutely. It still drives people away from treatment,
right?
Or still drives people into isolation, right? But it's changing, right? Because there's no stigma of just gambling itself. Again, think back to when we were kids. You know, oh, I'm going to gamble, I'm going to do this. Viewed as vice, morality, organized crime, not something that is that every man should do, right?
Right.
Now,
no, just the act of
promoted the
gambling
opposite.
alone, people would look down on you for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the act of
Just
it,
the
not even having a problem with it. Just like, oh, you're a gambler.
Right.
People would look down
You're
on
right.
you.
Like, think like James Caan from The Gambler, the movie in the late 70s. That's how people viewed it. And society's gone the opposite way. But there's still stigma on losing.
Yep.
There's still stigma on self-control.
Yep.
Like, if you couldn't hold it all in and you lost it all, that's on you.
Right.
And they equate that with, you know, we
What
got
are you
something
thinking?
happening.
You got a suited king.
You got a suited king.
Triple or quadruple?
I'm gonna go triple here.
Triple. All right. Oh, you got a 9. I got a 6.
6.
All right,
Yeah.
let's fingers crossed. He's got like deuce 4.
Oh.
no.
CJ.
That's not
This
right.
is for CJ.
This is for charity,
CJ. It's not for you. CJ. CJ. What do you think about what we're talking about here, CJ?
Interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Does this resonate? What kind of training do you get to quote, spot people with gambling problems?
Good question.
No idea. No training.
No training. Don't say that.
Aren't you supposed to give people a brochure if you think they have a problem or something?
Yeah. We have a brochure that I forgot what it's called. It's called When the Fun Stops.
Yeah, when the fun
When
stops,
the fun
right?
stops.
1-800-GAMBLER.
Yeah.
That's
Oh.
our national helpline, 1-800-GAMBLER for anyone concerned with gambling disorder or problems for themselves or someone else. And for years, casinos like here would do responsible gambling training.
Yep.
But again, like, can you tell when someone's struggling?
For my experience, since I'm kind of new, not yet.
Yeah. If you're there for 24 hours
Right.
straight, that's generally not.
But it's hard to tell like who's just a jerk and who's having a problem.
Right.
Because like they both look similar on the surface. They're both angry that
Right.
they're losing.
Right.
But like one person may be somebody who just gambles when they come to Vegas once a year.
Yeah.
But it's just a jerk.
Yeah.
And the other person is angry because he's
When they're
losing
yelling and
all
screaming.
his money.
And that's
Both.
that's why it's so difficult. And the harm doesn't happen inside the casino. The harm happens when people go home.
right.
Right, when they gotta explain why they overspent so much, or don't have what they had.
I think you're folding the 8, but it's up to you. It's 8 high.
8 high, no.
Okay, so I guess you kind of have an audience here that's gamblers. My audience in the core are
Yes.
gambling audience. You almost, thank goodness. What do you have, if they're struggling right now, what do you have to say for them? Like, is the message, don't feel shame, get help?
Yeah.
What is the message?
So I'd
for
start
them?
with this. Number one, and some singles, please. Gambling at its best is supposed to do what? It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be entertainment. It's supposed to bring you closer to people. It's supposed to improve your quality of life. It's not how much you gamble, how much time you gamble, but if gambling is creating any kind of harm, any kind of difficulty in your life, for whatever reason, maybe you're not sleeping as well, maybe you're thinking about it too much, maybe you're struggling financially, maybe you're hiding it from your loved ones. The first step ought to be to educate yourself and really think, hey, what's going on with me? So some people go on podcasts, and there's a lot of great podcasts out there like All In or Broke Girl Society, and learn more about, do I have a gambling issue? And if so, what can I do about it? They can kind of help themselves immediately that same day. Then there's a whole other group of folks who say 8s and 5s. Well, that's the whole board.
Yeah, well, we've got Jack High.
You got Jack High.
He's got like 7, 9.
Okay.
Life is good.
That's good. Oh, Jack 5, Jack. Okay, 7, 9, 8.
7, 8? 4, 8.
There you go. So that's number one. They can start educating themselves because there's a lot of great content out there. Podcasts, National Council on Problem Gambling, lots of great information. Our website has a lot of information about
Which is what?
UCLA Gambling Studies Program.org. UCLA Gambling Program .org. Number two, though, if anyone's really struggling and they know they have significant issues,
Right.
they got to get professional help. And what that looks like is reaching out and getting a gambling therapist, a psychotherapist, a professional. It's just like any other health condition, you want to see an expert. If I have chest pain or difficulty in my back, I want to see a doctor who knows about that.
Right.
And so that's what we tell folks is to reach out. And invariably, many states have no-cost treatment for gambling problems.
Yep.
So,
Same with smoking.
Same with smoking.
Yeah.
In California, we have a no cost.
I
Look at
flopped
that.
it.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
That's how you flop it.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
You
I had
bet
a
your
pair
middle
of 8s.
pair?
I
Yeah,
will bet my
double.
middle pair.
20.
There, your pressure.
So there's no cost help that they
no
can
cost
reach
help.
out for.
Yeah, and no cost help is going to be, with therapists and licensed people who understand gambling disorder. But people say, isn't it scary? Like, what can you actually do? And I think that's the visual for your audience to realize is that going to a therapist isn't going to change you. It's going to
Right.
make you better. And that there are things that can only happen inside therapy or with a mental health professional that will improve your quality of life. Again, your sleep, your ability to solve problems, your ability to navigate stress. Think about this tragic event we just went through with the wildfires in California, right? Where we see and we know that the folks who can get professional help now to learn to manage their stress, manage their grief, those problems aren't going to grow.
Right.
They're going to be able to handle problems now. So that's always the thing. People always say, well, how do I know I have a problem? People know.
You know.
You know.
You absolutely know.
But what you don't know is the reason why you have a problem.
Right.
I have a lot of folks who said, no, I don't have a gambling problem. I have bad luck. Or I have a money problem. Or I have a wife problem who doesn't understand what I'm doing.
Right.
Right. Or I got screwed out because of a sports game that was rigged. So I think that's the difference. That many times the problem
Personal
is caused by
responsibility,
gambling.
right?
Personal responsibility,
Yeah.
and understanding that sometimes harm, comes because of something that's not treated, like a depression or a gambling problem like that.
Right. So, how much? Part of my like what I've learned, because I've been, like I said, everything under the sun has been kind of
Right.
at some point or another. In my 20s, it was drugs and gambling, and then.
And again, one of the big things is it wasn't just you tried things; is you did them on a repeated basis,
Right.
and they created harm.
Right.
That's addiction.
Right.
Just because you do something once or twice isn't an addiction. If you come to Vegas once a year
Yeah, and you blow
and
even
you blow and
more
even
than you wanted.
even more you blow more than you want, that doesn't make you a problem.
That's right.
It's not great, and it
Right.
could be. It's problematic. But look at this.
That's
Look
a
at
great
this.
hand.
Look
I would
at
go
this.
40 with that.
Look at this.
So, but what I was getting at is all of those issues that I've dealt with over the years, and thankfully I'm past most of them.
Yeah.
None of them was I able to quit until I was truly ready.
Yeah. Which means what? When you were like sick of it, or when you were in the right space to actually make changes?
It's hard to say, right? So like, I quit smoking 11 years ago.
Yeah.
Cigarettes.
Okay.
And it was because I woke up one day with a little bit of bronchitis.
Yeah.
And I was having trouble breathing.
Yeah.
And a realization hit me where I was like, oh, is this a glimpse into my future?
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah.
And I never smoked again.
No medication.
No nothing.
No
Even
nothing.
though I've been smoking since I was 16.
Yeah.
Like I just woke up with
Right.
bronchitis and was like, oh, I'm done.
And how heavy a smoker were you?
A pack and a half
Pack
a
and
day.
a half a day. So
Yeah.
25, 30 cigarettes a day.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
And that's the some part that sometimes people get confused about addiction. Because they'll hear stories like that.
Mm-hmm.
They'll say, oh, you can quit anytime you want. You just don't want to. And that's not always the case.
right.
But in your case there, the stars lined up and your brain was ready and your body was ready. But how did you deal with the nicotine withdrawal?
It was horrible. The first month was just horrible.
Yeah. You just gutted it out.
I just toughed it out.
Yeah.
And then once you pass the first month, it gets a lot easier.
Yeah, yeah.
But that first month was probably the worst month I've ever had in my life.
Do you think you had to go through that in order to get off cigarettes though?
I think so. Because all the other
Interesting.
times I'd quit in the past, I always started again.
Yeah.
So I've used the nicotine gum. Do you want to triple on that ace or quadruple?
I will triple that ace.
Do you want to drink?
I still got my water here. I'm good.
You're
there.
good?
Yeah.
We're good. I'm checking. Yes, sir. So yeah, I have an 8.
got 8s and 5s.
So I would have, if I didn't wake up with bronchitis, would I still be smoking today? I don't know. Oh, I got a boat.
You got a boat.
Yes, sir. You have ace high with trip fives. All right, let's see what happens. Hopefully you hold up.
No 5.
And you hold up.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Now that's the thing. Like, if you were to see me during that month, I probably would have given you medications to help with the withdrawal.
Right.
To make it a little easier. Would that have still held the recovery? Who knows?
Right.
But certainly wouldn't have to go through suffering that month. So that's the thing.
I wonder if because like I had quit with Nicorette and stuff before for short periods of time. One time I quit when I was 18. I had quit, but a very stressful moment in my life. I started again after a few weeks. So, but I wonder how much was the suffering that helped me stick to it. Because I was like, I'm never going through that again.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. It's an interesting thing because, again, sometimes people will say you have to suffer to get to the end. That's not always the case.
Thank you.
For some people, it is.
Right.
But and what's really cool about tobacco cessation, that your body, even though you had all those years of smoking, right, can recover.
Yep. Takes about 10 years.
Takes about 10 years.
So I'm at about year 11 now.
Is this a smoke-free casino?
No.
Or no? It smells smoke-free.
It's new. It's only a year old. That's why.
Wait for another 5 years.
Give it 5 or 6
Give
more
it 5 years.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's not like some of the other places you frequented, right?
So like another thing is, there we go.
Whoa.
I used to weigh 550 pounds roughly.
Okay.
And then one day I decided that I was going to do, and I got down to about 214. I put 100 pounds back on since COVID.
How did you lose that
Again,
amount?
just
How did you lose that much?
cold turkey.
Just
Right.
not eating?
Just intermittent fasting, keto, and 1,200 calories a day. I lost it in less than a year. 300 pounds
300 pounds in a year.
in less than a year.
What year was this? Was this during COVID?
It was right before COVID.
Right before COVID?
Right before. So I lost the weight, and then COVID hit
Yeah.
the next year.
Yeah.
And then I've spent the last 5 years since basically putting back on 100 pounds,
Okay.
which I loathe, but as long as you don't have an ace, I should be okay. I'm guessing you're going to toss that.
Yeah. Unless you've got. Yeah.
So, but that was another like lifelong, and you could see.
So
I
again,
still
so
struggle
maybe
with it.
again, the way your brain's constructed
Right.
is yes, you're prone to these, addictions or excessive uses of stuff. But maybe there's also what's been spared is a part that once the body and brain and mind are ready to change, clicks in and just kind of stays focused enough on the target goal at hand, and it just doesn't waver. So, have you been considering the GLP receptor medication?
I'm on it now.
Okay.
And it's a miracle because I don't know how much research you do on it, but I've noticed it's not just appetite that it suppresses. Like I notice a benefit in impulse control.
Yes.
Like unbelievably
Yeah.
so. And I'm like, how is a GLP like it
Yeah.
works on hormones,
Right.
and yet like I notice my impulsivity is so much better.
This is a perfect example. Like 5 years ago, we barely knew anything about these things. Now
Yeah.
we're starting to see stories like yours.
Yeah.
We have now research trials looking at those medications for alcohol, for smoking,
Yeah.
and even for gambling disorders as well.
Oh, it's helping with gambling disorder too.
We're starting to see again same thing, reductions in cravings, also satiety.
Yep.
So you don't need as much to get that satisfaction. So it just shows again another element of biology, how the brain is very interesting, and CJ, why are you gonna? CJ, you said you're new here. That's not what a new guy does. CJ.
But it truly is a miracle drug. Like it really is.
It's I in medicine I like to use the word miracle. I say it's a profoundly interesting and powerful medication. When I was in medical school, Fen was the big thing.
I remember
You
Fen was putting holes in people's hearts.
Oh yeah, and everyone was on it. People were
Yeah.
dropping weight, and it was really doing wonderful. And all of a sudden, yeah, cardiac and pulmonary hypertension. They took it off the market.
Yep.
We hope that doesn't happen to something like the GLP receptor agonist.
Right.
But
well, we have more data on it now.
we have more data, and again, for the audience out there that are wondering, well, what exactly are these? These are glucagon receptor agonists that impact a hormone called glucagon that's responsible for insulin and sugar and in our brains as well, cross-talking with various things. So very interesting medication.
Why do you think it has such a profound effect in more than just its intended area? Like it's why does it have such a profound effect in so many areas?
You know, number one, glucagon receptors are everywhere in the body. They're in our liver, they're in our gut, they're in our brain. There's a lot of, it's a newer area of study, so we don't know as much as we'd like to. But we really seem to think that it's focusing on the signaling into our brains that really is focused on, again, thinking about something that's rewarding combined with the actual experience of it being rewarding. So that's two areas. So when you look at someone who's wanting something, the craving, and then you look at when you actually have the product, that's satiety. So that's two different things. Versus other medications like naltrexone are really more on just the urges, the thinking about it. So it's a novel area, very interesting thing, and you've dropped weight on it.
Yeah. Well, so I've had an interesting experience with it, right? Because you're checking that. I got on it because I couldn't stop thinking about food again. Like I had come
Thinking
full
about
circle
it, yeah.
to where like while I'm having a meal, I'm thinking what's my next meal is, you know? And it's a horrible place to be. You have a 10, so you're probably going to bet that. And so I got on the GLP-5, and hey, that's beautiful, CJ. Thank you. Now, and it was so effective that what I found is, as I would get closer and closer to my next dose, I would suddenly be like, you know what? I'm going to delay my dose for a few days so I can have a little bit more food. And then I would delay it longer and longer and longer to where I was taking months between doses.
Really?
And I hate...
You were taking the oral one. You were taking the oral.
No.
No, you were taking the injection.
Injections.
Yeah.
Through a compound.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I hated the fact that my brain figured out how to game it.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm stuck right now.
Yeah.
Like I took my last dose, it'll be 3 weeks this week.
Yeah.
And like I'm still not taking my next dose only because it's so effective.
Yeah.
And yet my brain has figured out, well, I could delay it and lie to myself.
Yeah.
And I hate that.
You know, food is a really interesting one too, right? I mean, look, almost all the substances we have are food.
Yep.
You know, alcohol, cannabis, cocaine, they're all plants, right?
Yes, sir.
So, but there's something really different about these highly processed foods that really tickle the dopamine in the same way as, you know, alcohol. We get that. And that's in fact, I think, part of the reason why we've had so much obesity over the last 30, 40 years. But this medication is not a panacea. It's not going to change everything forever. And we don't know because it's so new. We don't know what the next 10, 15 years are going to look like.
Right.
So it goes back to, I think, that's an interesting thing when you're finding my relationship with this medication. When it gets fuzzier, that's the time to get some really, I think, good conversations with your physician or with a therapist to really think, where am I going with this? What do I want out of this? You know, and certainly we just don't know, like, what happens if people are on this for 15, 20 years.
Right.
You know,
we have what, 10 years of data now?
Yeah, and so...
But it's looking good for 10.
It's looking pretty good, but we also know with certainty that, you know, it has side effects, sure, but also carrying that much weight definitely has a lot of concerns.
Carrying the extra weight by far outweighs the risk of that outweigh the... So far, anyway.
Right.
But so what would you recommend for someone like me who's figured out how to game his Ozempic dose?
Yeah. I think it goes back to establishing what kind of your expectation and what your goal, again, of what you want to achieve. You want to say, well, I just want to have healthier, triglycerides and cholesterol. That's a very different goal. If you say I want to be able to run, a 10-minute mile. If you say I want to just improve my cardiac score so I don't have a heart attack or stroke, those are different goals. If you say I just don't want to have all these internal battles in my head about food every time I have a meal, that's a different goal. So I think number one, anytime you're taking medications that's
I think you want to fold.
I'll fold.
Yeah.
Anytime you're taking medications that's not exactly the way it was supposed to be taken and you're altering it, that's a concern.
Right.
I think on the flip side, when you go back and you look at your other things in your lifestyle, are you getting physical movement? What are you actually putting in your body the vast majority of your time? Are you cutting out as much of the highly processed sugar? Are you sleeping decently? Those are the markers I think that are going to help you. I've had a number of patients have all sorts of interesting mental health reactions to GLP medicine. Some have had improvements in mood. I've had others who, I had a couple of folks who became suicidal, where it altered their mood so much, or it altered their, sleeping ability. So all those are factors to think about. And the simple question, nice work there, is what is this doing to my body, brain, and mind? And is this what are my goals that I want to achieve from this medication? And I think that's the starting point. And just having conversations with different folks who are, not only the doctor prescribing it, but also other people who know about this medication to say what it is and isn't doing for you.
I mean, because when it works, it's amazing. When I'm taking it, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like I'm not taking it because it's too effective.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And again, when you think about it, when it's too effective, it's like, what are you missing that you wish you still had? Is it the experience of thinking about food? Is it the actual eating process that you're wishing you still have?
The comfort of it,
Yeah.
You got Queen High.
Queen High.
Jack King 7-7
Sure,
Queen.
why not?
I fold my 8 High.
Like if it's if there's a binging aspect to it,
There
it's
is.
very different than just enjoying a nice meal in private.
No, I'm definitely a binge eater.
Yeah.
And it's tough to get past. Like I said, I've done it before, but I think the way I did it back then was I literally just shifted my addiction to food into an addiction to not eating.
Right.
I mean, honestly, I would
so
almost
the not eating became like the reward.
I would get
the
joy.
Game. Yeah, it'd be like a game. How far can I go?
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And I would literally smile knowing how hungry I was because I knew the progress I was making when I was feeling that hungry.
that was getting dopamine going in that. Right.
And I hate that I can't get back there because I was going to the gym twice a day.
Yeah.
Like I was.
Have you been working with a nutritionist at all?
No.
So consider that. I mean, nutritionists are obviously very well trained.
Yep.
They're trained in a very different way than docs like ourselves, and they're very good with getting in that mental health aspects of relationship with food. I think that's super important.
Okay.
Because
you got a King
High. Because
so you think I should see a nutritionist?
I think it's worth at least a consult.
Okay.
Because again, defining, like for instance, there's other things. Eating disorders are not addictive disorders. They're very different types of mental health conditions. So typically we think of, eating disorders, you're gonna have obviously unhealthy eating combined with disturbances in kind of body image, right? Like anorexia.
Yeah, I have body dysmorphia. I can't
like
look
that.
in the mirror.
So the things that I do for addiction don't always apply. There's different strategy there. So, but oftentimes we see overlap. The eating disorder, mood disorder, addiction, all that, which is why sometimes, as we say, it does take a village to really peel back all these things to get answers that make sense moving forward. Again, fundamentally, it's quality of life and healthier living. You're about my age, right? I'm 52,
47,
you're a little younger.
Yeah.
That's all we want, right? It's just good healthy living and ability to go wherever we want.
Yes, sir. You want to check that?
It's only 30.
I'm gonna.
Oh, it's duh. Yeah. All right. And you're checking that. Oh, 2 pair for me, and you have a 9. All right.
And the king.
So I say we wrap this up. You've got quite a bit for your charity. Any parting advice? I think we should do a follow-up episode where we monitor me as I play slots.
We can do that.
I think that would make a fun episode for people.
We can talk about cannabis, a whole other thing. That's a whole. Maybe we go Planet 13.
Yeah, you know, I will say I was never a cannabis smoker.
Yeah.
Growing up, you know, I tried it a couple times like anybody else over the years growing up, but it wasn't until right before I lost the weight where I got my sleep, because I had terrible insomnia.
Yeah.
Terrible insomnia.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I tried cannabis and got my sleep under control that I was able to get my weight under control right after.
Yeah.
So cannabis really saved my life too.
It's a fascinating world between medical uses. What are we doing with it? How can we make sure that people are not overusing it?
Right.
Same story like sports betting. I will say this again, and there you go.
Yeah.
I will say this again. Vast majority of people who do gamble do so recreationally and don't incur long-lasting damage. But the world of gambling, as you and I are experiencing it, is very, very different. I think, again, as we mentioned before, anyone who is concerned about their gambling, or even like their family members gambling, or unsure what to do, it's always better to get a consult, a one-time visit with a professional, just to get a handle on it. The hardest thing in my job is by the time people come to see me, it's pretty severe.
Right.
You know,
They're at the rock bottom.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't get people who are in the early phases where, and in any other medical condition, we know this to be true. If we identify things at an earlier stage, we can stop it from getting worse. I think that's a super important. And again, so many people are like, oh, I don't know what you could possibly say to me that's going to help me. They think it's baked into their DNA. They're just going to lose or never want to stop. So
You have a jack.
I have a jack.
Yep.
And we got to do that.
I
We will
fold.
do that. How did you end up doing from the start?
Well, we'll find out. 1, 2, 75. All right. I'm pretty much even.
Okay.
I started with about 450. I gave you a $500 tip.
Yeah.
3, 4, 5, 6.
So this is all earnings.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't say winning, we say earning.
That's
You know,
pretty
one of
great.
the funny things I've been thinking about language is so interesting. We always say, I lost X amount, but we never say I spent $500 gambling.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Did you notice that? Or I won, I lost. We don't say I earned $500 gambling, right? I won or I lost.
Or that I spent it.
Right. And I
Yeah.
think when we redefine, entertainment,
Yeah.
that's important because a lot of people, if I said to you, just before coming here today, I was trying to get tickets to the Sphere, Backstreet Boys, it's like $1,000 for
Yeah.
a ticket. Would you spend $1,000 on concert tickets? A lot of people would say, oh my gosh, that's too much.
Right.
But when it comes to gambling, would you lose $1,000? Oftentimes people say, oh, no big deal, that's just part of the game. So I think
Right.
for a lot of folks to recognize that gambling is not a sustainable way of making money, in my opinion.
It's not at all.
Not at all.
Not even a little bit.
And whatever you do earn or win is a short-term gain, not a long-term gain.
Absolutely.
Probably the one thing I see a lot on the online community and a lot of our patients coming in now, they firmly believe, no, if I just keep playing, I'm going to get spectacular financial wins.
Right.
That's going to change my fortune.
And that's not true.
Right,
in
and
the
that's
least.
driven by the lottery, same game parlay, the slot machine. There's a reason slot machines are the top form of gambling that's still profitable, and it's the number one gambling type we see that people are having problems to in California. It's still the slots.
Right.
And it's putting that small amount out for a huge win, that progressive.
Yep.
That's what's drawing people in, that I think creates kind of that gambler's fallacy, if you will, that eventually I'm going to win.
If I keep playing,
I
I
keep
will
playing,
eventually
I win.
hit that big
No,
one. And
you
it's,
might win a little bit. Like today, we earned a little bit. We got to know each other a little bit.
Right.
You know, I have a friend for life, hopefully.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
These are all the positives, right, and aspects of that. But anyway, so
This is great.
I think we'll go color up, Marissa.
We'll color up.
Color up.
Everyone, this was Dr. Timothy Fong from UCLA, a professor of psychiatry. Thank you all for watching us here at the Durango for Table Talk. I'll see you guys next time.